A homeless black girl's voice trembles through a storm as she whispers into a billionaire's phone, "Your son's dying in the street." The call cuts. Seconds later, thunder cracks, and a helicopter tears through the sky, chasing a voice that shouldn't exist. Because the girl who made that call vanished 3 years ago, the same night her mother died on one of his company's sites. When the helicopter lands, the billionaire freezes. His son is bleeding out on the pavement, but in his hand is a photo of the very girl who called. A girl he's seen before. A face from a file he buried. Now, she's back, breathing, real, and somehow tied to everything he's tried to forget. Security footage shows nothing but shadows. No footprints. No witnesses. Just that haunting voice on the emergency call log. The media calls her a mystery. He calls her a ghost. But deep down, he knows exactly who she is, and if he's right, it means his past didn't stay buried, it grew up and found him. The rain fell like needles through the dark, washing over a city that had long stopped caring. Under a flickering streetlight sat Maya, a small black girl hugging her knees to her chest. Her torn sneakers couldn't keep the water out anymore. She was 13, but looked younger. Hunger had a way of shrinking you down. Maya watched as people hurried past, eyes down, collars up. Not one glanced her way. It had been 2 days since her last meal, half a sandwich someone had tossed in the park. Her stomach growled. She pressed her palm against it, willing it to be quiet. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family, enjoy the story. You hungry, child? Maya looked up to see an old woman with kind eyes standing before her, holding out a paper bag. I'm fine, Maya lied. Pride was sometimes all you had left when the world took everything else. The woman placed the bag beside Maya anyway. God sees you even when nobody else does, she said before shuffling away into the rain. Inside the bag, a sandwich, an apple, and a small carton of milk. Maya's hands trembled as she ate, forcing herself to take small bites instead of swallowing everything whole. Her mother would have been ashamed to see her like this. Lydia Jackson had been strong, beautiful, determined. We might not have much, she'd say, but we have dignity. That was before the coughing started. Before the hospital bills. Before the eviction. Maya still wore her mother's necklace, a simple silver chain with a heart charm. It was the only thing the pawnshop wouldn't take. Headlights swept across the empty street as cars passed. In some, families laughed together. In others, tired people headed home from late shifts. Maya wondered what it felt like to have somewhere to go. The cardboard she'd collected was soaked through, useless now. She'd have to find new shelter tonight. Home had once been a small apartment in a building with peeling paint but neighbors who looked out for each other. Now home was wherever she could lay her head, tonight, probably the underpass 3 blocks away, if the other homeless folks would let her stay. Look at that pathetic little thing, a teenage boy smirked, walking past with friends. Probably waiting for her crackhead mom. Maya kept her eyes down. Reacting only made things worse. Don't you got no family? Another boy laughed. She tightened her grip on her mother's necklace. Family. Her father had never been in the picture. Her grandmother had died before Maya was born. After her mother passed, the system tried to place her, but the foster home had been its own kind of nightmare. Running away had seemed like freedom. Some days, she wasn't so sure anymore. Hey! A voice called from across the street. Get away from her. The boys laughed and wandered off, bored with their game. Maya glanced toward the voice, expecting to see a cop or maybe a church volunteer. Instead, she saw no one. Just the empty street glittering with rain. That happened sometimes, thinking someone cared enough to help. Imagining voices that weren't there. But somewhere deep inside her chest, a small light still burned, the stubborn belief that kindness still existed in this cold world. Her mother had planted that seed in her. People are mostly good, she'd said. They just forget sometimes. Thunder rumbled overhead. The real storm was just beginning. Maya gathered her few possessions, a worn backpack containing a toothbrush, a change of clothes, her mother's obituary, and a dog-eared library book about stars. She'd have to return it soon. The library was the one place she could stay warm during the day without being chased out. As she stood, her legs ached from sitting so long. Her whole body felt heavy with exhaustion. A sleek black car rolled to a stop across the street. Inside, a man in an expensive suit was arguing on his phone. His face was hard, angry. He looked up suddenly and his eyes met Maya's. For one strange moment, they just stared at each other, the man who had everything, and the girl who had nothing. Then he looked away, the window rolled up, and the car disappeared into the night. Maya shivered. Rich people lived in a different universe. One where the rain didn't soak you to the bone and hunger didn't gnaw at your insides like a living thing. She adjusted her backpack and began walking toward the underpass. Above her, the streetlight flickered once more and went out completely, leaving her in darkness. That night, Maya's belief in kindness would be tested. And somewhere across the city, in a tower of glass and steel, the man from the car would face a test of his own. Neither of them knew their worlds were about to collide. High above the city, Elliot Graves stood at his office window, watching lightning split the sky. 40 floors up, the rain seemed distant. Someone else's problem. He turned back to the boardroom table where 5 executives waited. On the wall, a digital counter tracked Graves Industries' stock price in real time. Always climbing. Never enough. Gentlemen, Elliot said, straightening his tie, the Robinson merger isn't optional. It's necessary. His voice never rose, never needed to. Men twice his age flinched when he spoke. At 43, Elliot had built an empire that consumed smaller companies like a shark devoured minnows. But sir, ventured Harrison, the newest executive, their employees are not our concern, Elliot finished. Profit margins are our concern. How many times had he given this speech? Cut the fat. Streamline operations. Maximize shareholder value. Words that meant people would lose jobs, families would struggle. Numbers on a spreadsheet, not human beings. Something twisted in his chest, discomfort, perhaps. But he'd buried his conscience years ago, alongside his wife. He dismissed the meeting with a wave. As the executives filed out, his phone buzzed. The same name flashing, Caleb. His son. 4th time tonight. He silenced it again. When had they last spoken without arguing? Before Diana died, certainly. 3 years of cancer had hollowed her out while Elliot built his company. She'd begged him to spend more time at home. He'd promised to make it up to her later. Later never came. Have you ever lost someone and realized too late what truly mattered? The weight of regret can crush even the strongest among us. Rain lashed against the window as thunder shook the glass tower. In the reflection, Elliot barely recognized himself. Expensive suit, perfectly trimmed salt and pepper hair, eyes cold as winter. Diana used to say his smile could light up a room. He couldn't remember the last time he genuinely smiled. His assistant knocked softly. Mr. Graves. Your son's school called again. He hasn't attended classes all week. Elliot pinched the bridge of his nose. Thank you, Margaret. When she left, he unlocked the bottom drawer of his desk. Inside, a silver frame holding a photo of the 3 of them, Elliot, Diana, and Caleb, from a beach vacation 6 years ago. His wife's smile radiant, Caleb's eyes bright with laughter. A family. Before everything fell apart. He closed the drawer without calling his son back. Downstairs, his driver waited with the car. Home, sir. Yes. Home was a modern mansion overlooking the city, all glass and steel and emptiness. 14 rooms for 2 people who barely spoke. The housekeeper met him at the door. "Mr. Caleb hasn't returned, sir." Elliot checked his watch, 10:47 p.m. "Did he say where he was going?" "No, sir. He left after your argument this morning." "The argument?" "Caleb's failing grades. College applications. The future of Graves Industries. You never asked what I wanted." Caleb had shouted before slamming the door. Elliot poured himself 2 fingers of scotch and stood before the wall of windows. The storm raged across the city below. Somewhere out there, his 17-year-old son wandered alone. He should call the police. Private security. Someone. Instead, he sipped his drink and told himself Caleb was just being dramatic. He'd come home when he got cold and hungry. He always did. The scotch burned all the way down. 1 glass became 2. Isn't it strange how we can live in luxury yet feel completely impoverished? How many of us build walls of wealth only to find ourselves trapped inside them, alone? On the mantel stood another photo, Caleb as a little boy, sitting on Diana's lap. They'd been reading together, neither aware of the camera. The love between them palpable even in frozen time. Diana's last words to him, "He's going to need you, Elliot. Really need you. Promise me you'll see him." "I'll see him every day," Elliot had promised. But seeing wasn't the same as understanding. Since Diana's death, Caleb had become a stranger, angry, withdrawn, failing in school. A disappointment, Elliot had called him this morning. The memory made him wince. His phone buzzed with a text from his assistant, "Sir, the Peterson contract needs your signature by morning." Work. Always more work. In his home office, Elliot reviewed documents, made calls to Tokyo, London, Dubai. Business never slept. Empires required constant attention. The storm intensified. Midnight came and went. At 1:17 a.m., he realized Caleb still hadn't come home. A flutter of worry stirred in his chest. He called his son's phone. Straight to voicemail. "Caleb, it's your father. Call me when you get this." He sent a text, "Where are you?" No response. For the first time, real concern broke through his carefully constructed wall of indifference. Caleb had stayed out late before, but never this late. Never during a storm like this. Elliot called his head of security. "Find my son. Now." As he hung up, lightning flashed, illuminating the entire city for one brilliant moment. In that flash, Elliot caught his reflection again, a man surrounded by everything money could buy, yet poorer than anyone. Diana would be ashamed of him. Thunder crashed, closer this time. The lights flickered once, twice, then stabilized. His phone rang, an unknown number. Probably his security team. Or perhaps Caleb, calling from a friend's phone. Elliot answered, irritation and relief battling in his voice. "Hello. Are you Mr. Graves?" A young girl's voice, trembling. "Who is this?" he demanded. "Your son, he's on the street. He's not moving. He's bleeding." The phone nearly slipped from his suddenly numb fingers. "Where?" he whispered, heart pounding like the thunder outside. The girl gave an address, a part of town Elliot knew only as statistics on crime reports. "Don't move," he ordered. "I'm coming." He was already running, knocking over his chair, the crystal tumbler shattering on the floor behind him. For the first time in years, nothing mattered but his son. As rain lashed against the windows and lightning split the sky, Elliot Graves made a call that would change everything. Maya heard the shouting before she saw it, angry voices cutting through the rain. She'd been huddled under the concrete underpass, the closest thing to dry she could find. Her stomach had stopped growling hours ago, settling into a hollow ache that somehow felt worse. She'd been about to close her eyes when the noise started. Something pulled her toward it. Curiosity, maybe. Or that stubborn light inside her that wouldn't die. Her feet moved before her mind decided, carrying her through puddles that soaked through her already wet shoes. The shouting grew louder as she approached the old basketball court with its chain-link fence and broken hoops. 3 boys, older, taller, their hoods pulled up against the rain, had someone cornered against the fence. Even from a distance, Maya could tell the trapped boy didn't belong there. His clothes were too nice, his stance too uncertain. "Gimme the watch," one of the boys demanded, shoving the cornered figure hard against the fence. "I don't want trouble," came the reply, a voice trying to sound tough but trembling underneath. "Should have thought of that before coming to this neighborhood, rich boy." Maya pressed herself against the wall of a nearby building, her heart pounding. She should run. This wasn't her business. She knew better than to get involved. But she couldn't look away. How many times have you witnessed something wrong and wondered, should I help or should I hide? That moment when everything inside you splits in 2 directions. Lightning flashed, illuminating the scene in stark white. The cornered boy was maybe 17, with dark hair plastered to his forehead. One of the 3 pushed him again, harder. "Last chance. Watch and phone." "My dad will pay you," the boy said. "He has money. We're taking it now." What happened next unfolded in terrible slow motion. The tallest boy pulled something from his jacket, metal gleaming in another flash of lightning. The cornered boy tried to run. A swing, a crack, a sickening thud. Then silence, broken only by the steady drum of rain. Maya's breath caught in her throat as the boy crumpled to the ground. The 3 attackers stared for a second, then cursed. "You didn't have to hit him that hard, man. Let's go. Now." They ran, splashing through puddles, disappearing around a corner, leaving their victim motionless on the wet pavement. Maya remained frozen. This wasn't her problem. She had enough trouble staying alive herself. But the boy wasn't moving. Blood mixed with rainwater, tracing a thin red line from his temple. Nobody else was coming. In this part of the city, people minded their own business. Especially at night. Especially in the rain. "Hey," she called softly, approaching cautiously. "Hey, you okay?" No response. She knelt beside him, ignoring the cold water soaking through her jeans. Up close, everything about him screamed money, the watch they hadn't managed to steal, the leather jacket, the designer shoes. What would you do if you found someone who needed help, knowing helping them might put you in danger? Maya touched his shoulder gently. "Wake up." Still nothing. Panic fluttered in her chest. Was he dead? She pressed 2 fingers against his neck like she'd seen in movies. A pulse, faint but there. "Help," she shouted. "Somebody help." Her voice echoed off empty buildings. Nobody came. The boy's phone lay beside his outstretched hand, screen cracked but still glowing with soft blue light. Maya hesitated, then picked it up. She had to call someone. An ambulance. The police. Someone. But hospitals asked questions. Police asked more. They might recognize her from the foster care reports. Might send her back. The phone screen changed as she held it, responding to the movement. A photo appeared, the unconscious boy smiling with an older man, clearly his father. Below it, one word, Dad. Maya's finger hovered over the contact. The smart thing would be to drop the phone and walk away. But she couldn't leave him like this, bleeding in the rain. She pressed, call. The phone rang once. Twice. Maya's mouth went dry. What would she even say? Who is this? A voice demanded, sharp, authoritative. Are you Mr. Graves? She managed, her voice sounding small even to her own ears. Yes. She swallowed hard. Your son, he's on the street. He's not moving. He's bleeding. Silence. Then sounds in the background, movement, something crashing. Where? The voice had changed, fear replacing authority. Maya looked around frantically for a street sign, finally spotting one at the corner. She read the intersection, describing the basketball court, the underpass nearby. Don't move, the man ordered. I'm coming. He needs help now, Maya said, but the call had ended. She looked down at the boy, Caleb, if the phone contact was right. Rain continued to fall on his face, washing away some of the blood only for more to appear. Maya shrugged off her worn jacket and placed it gently under his head. It wasn't much, but at least it kept him from lying directly on the cold concrete. Your dad's coming, she told him, not knowing if he could hear. Just hang on, okay? The minutes stretched. Maya kept talking, rain soaking through her thin t-shirt, her teeth beginning to chatter. My mom used to say that rain washes everything clean, she told the unconscious boy. Makes things new again. Maybe it's doing that for you right now. A distant sound cut through the storm, rhythmic, mechanical, growing louder. Maya looked up, squinting through the rain to see lights sweeping across the low clouds. The sound built to a roar as a helicopter appeared, impossibly low, searchlights cutting through the darkness. Maya scrambled back, suddenly afraid. Was this the police? Would they blame her somehow? The helicopter hovered, its wind whipping rain in all directions, then touched down in the empty lot beside the basketball court. Before the rotors had even slowed, a door flew open and a man leaped out. Even through the rain and darkness, Maya recognized him from the phone picture. Caleb's father. Mr. Graves. He ran toward them, his expensive suit immediately drenched, his face a mask of terror. Behind him, paramedics rushed forward with a stretcher. Maya backed away, suddenly invisible as they surrounded Caleb. Medical terms flew between them, head trauma, unconscious, pupils dilated. Mr. Graves knelt beside his son, his composure shattered. Caleb. Caleb, can you hear me? The paramedics worked quickly, securing a neck brace, checking vitals, lifting him onto the stretcher. Sir, we need to get him to the hospital now, one said firmly. Only then did Mr. Graves seem to notice Maya, standing soaked and shivering a few feet away. You, he said, his voice thick. You called me. Maya nodded, suddenly conscious of her ragged clothes, her dripping hair, the stark difference between them. You stayed with him, he asked, something like wonder breaking through the fear in his voice. Maya wrapped her arms around herself, shivering harder now. I didn't want him to be alone. Their eyes met, the man who had everything and the girl who had nothing, connected by the broken boy between them. In that moment, thunder cracked directly overhead, making them both flinch. And as the paramedics rushed Caleb toward the waiting helicopter, something slipped from his pocket, landing silently in a puddle at Maya's feet. A small silver key. The phone call had lasted exactly 37 seconds. Half a minute that changed everything. Maya stared at the silver key in her palm, rain pooling around her feet. The helicopter's rotors were spinning faster now, drowning out even the thunder. Are you coming? Mr. Graves shouted over the roar, his hand extended toward her. Maya blinked, not understanding. To the hospital, he clarified. He might wake up. Might need to know what happened. She should say no. People like her didn't ride in helicopters with billionaires. People like her stayed invisible. But the key felt warm in her frozen hand. And something in the man's eyes, desperation, fear, a plea, made her nod. The next moment was a blur of movement. Mr. Graves' hand closed around hers, pulling her toward the helicopter. Someone draped a silver thermal blanket over her shoulders. Then she was inside, strapped into a seat across from Caleb's stretcher, watching paramedics work with practiced urgency. Have you ever had a single moment change the course of your entire life? One decision that pulls you into a world you never imagined. The helicopter lifted, the basketball court shrinking below them. Maya pressed her face to the window, watching her world, the streets, the underpasses, the shadows, fall away. She'd never been this high up before. Mr. Graves sat beside his son, his hand gripping Caleb's limp one. His lips moved, but Maya couldn't hear what he was saying over the engine noise. When he looked up, his eyes locked with hers. "What's your name?" he asked, voice barely audible. "Maya," she answered. "Maya Jackson. How did you find him?" "I heard shouting." 3 boys had him cornered. Mr. Graves' jaw tightened. "Did you recognize them?" Maya shook her head. "They ran after." She couldn't finish the sentence. "After they hurt my son," he completed, voice hard as stone. A paramedic interrupted, checking Caleb's vitals again. The boy hadn't moved, hadn't made a sound. Blood had soaked through the bandage they'd pressed to his temple. Maya clutched the silver key tighter. She hadn't told Mr. Graves about it. Something told her to wait. To hold on to this one small thing until she understood what it meant. Sometimes we keep secrets not because they're wrong, but because they're not yet ready to be spoken. Have you felt that before, that quiet certainty that something matters, even when you don't know why? The city lights spread below them like fallen stars. Maya had never seen it like this, beautiful instead of cruel. From up here, you couldn't see the hunger or the cold. Couldn't see the people sleeping in doorways or the kids who grew up too fast. The helicopter began its descent toward a hospital helipad where a team waited with a gurney and machines Maya didn't recognize. Everything moved with impossible speed after they landed. Caleb was rushed inside, doctors appearing from nowhere, voices overlapping with medical terms. Mr. Graves followed, his expensive shoes squeaking on the polished floor, leaving wet footprints behind him. No one told Maya what to do. No one seemed to notice her at all. She stood shivering in the hallway, the thermal blanket still wrapped around her shoulders. She couldn't follow them into the trauma room. Couldn't leave either, somehow. A nurse finally spotted her, took in her soaked clothes, her bare arms covered in goosebumps, the hollowness in her cheeks that spoke of too many missed meals. "Are you hurt too, honey?" she asked gently. Maya shook her head. "Are you with the Graves boy?" A complicated question. Maya settled for a small nod. The nurse led her to a plastic chair in a waiting room, promised to find her some dry clothes. Maya sat, water pooling beneath her, the silver key pressed into her palm so hard it left an imprint. Minutes stretched into an hour. The emergency room buzzed with nighttime activity, car accidents, heart attacks, a drunk man shouting about conspiracy theories. Maya watched it all through half-closed eyes, exhaustion finally catching up with her. She must have dozed off because suddenly Mr. Graves was standing before her, his face gray with worry. "He's stable," he said, though Maya hadn't asked. "Still unconscious. They're running tests." Maya nodded, not knowing what to say. "You're soaked through," he noticed, seeming to truly see her condition for the first time. "How long were you out in that storm?" She shrugged. "A while." Something shifted in his expression. Not pity exactly, something more complicated. "Where are your parents?" he asked. "Don't have any." "Guardian? Someone who's worried about you?" Maya almost laughed at that. "No, sir." Mr. Graves ran a hand through his wet hair, seeming lost. This was clearly a man used to solving problems with money or power. But some things couldn't be fixed that way. "You saved my son's life," he said finally. "I just made a phone call. You stayed with him. You could have walked away." Maya looked down at her hands, at the key still clutched in her right one. "Anybody would have done the same." "No," he said with certainty. "They wouldn't have." A doctor appeared then, clipboard in hand. "Mr. Graves?" We have the preliminary CT results. The conversation paused as they spoke in hushed tones. Maya caught fragments: swelling, observation, next 24 hours critical. When the doctor left, Mr. Graves seemed to make a decision. Wait here, he instructed before disappearing down the hallway. Maya considered leaving. She'd done what she needed to do. The boy was getting help. His father was here. They didn't need her anymore. But where would she go? Back to the underpass in the pouring rain? And something about the key in her hand made her stay rooted to the plastic chair, waiting. Mr. Graves returned with a nurse carrying a stack of scrubs. These should be dry at least, he said. There's a bathroom down the hall. The nurse led Maya to change. The hospital scrubs were too big, the pants dragging under her heels, but they were blessedly dry. When she emerged, her wet clothes in a bundle under her arm, Mr. Graves was on the phone, his voice low and urgent. Don't care what time it is. I want the security footage from every camera within 10 blocks of that basketball court. And I want the police detective handling this to call me personally. Yes, now. He hung up as Maya approached, tried to arrange his face into something less thunderous. They're moving Caleb to a private room, he said. We'll know more in the morning. Maya nodded again. I should probably go then. Go where? She didn't answer. Mr. Graves studied her, seeming to make calculations in his head. When did you last eat something? Her stomach answered with an audible growl. The cafeteria is closed, but there's a vending machine, he said. 5 minutes later, Maya sat with a pile of packaged food before her, chips, candy bars, a sandwich of indeterminate age. She tried to eat slowly, with dignity, but hunger won out. Mr. Graves watched her demolish the food with an expression she couldn't read. How old are you, Maya? 13, she answered between bites. And you've been on the streets how long? She shrugged again. Since spring. He didn't press further. A nurse appeared in the doorway. Mr. Graves. Your son is asking for you. The effect was electric. Mr. Graves stood so quickly his chair nearly toppled. He's awake. Just now. He's confused, but he's talking. Relief flooded his face. I'll be right there. He turned to Maya. Wait here. Please. She nodded, though she knew she should leave. She'd already stayed too long, gotten too involved. The smart move would be to walk out now, disappear back into the city. But as Mr. Graves hurried toward his son's room, Maya slipped the silver key into the pocket of her borrowed scrubs and settled deeper into the chair. 5 minutes passed. 10. 20. Her eyelids grew heavy. The hospital sounds faded. She drifted into an uneasy sleep, her body finally surrendering to exhaustion. She didn't know how much time had passed when a hand gently shook her shoulder. Maya, Mr. Graves' voice was tight, controlled. I need to ask you something important. She blinked awake, instantly alert. Is Caleb okay? He's awake. But confused. Mr. Graves crouched to meet her eyes. He keeps asking about a key. Says it's important. That someone needs to find it. Maya's heart thudded against her ribs. Do you know anything about a key? She hesitated, hand moving instinctively toward her pocket. But before she could respond, Caleb's voice echoed down the hallway, a sudden, terrified scream. Dad! They're coming! They're coming! Chaos erupted in the hallway. Mr. Graves sprinted toward his son's scream, doctors and nurses rushing past Maya in a blur of white coats and urgent voices. Sir, you need to step back, he's having an episode, get the sedative ready. Maya stood frozen in the waiting room, the silver key burning like a coal in her pocket. Caleb's terrified voice echoed again, words garbled but the fear in them unmistakable. Something was very wrong. She crept down the hallway, drawn by a force she couldn't name. Through the partially open door of room 437, she caught glimpses of the scene inside, Caleb thrashing against restraints, his father trying to calm him, medical staff hovering with needles and monitors. "They'll find it," Caleb gasped between sobs. "They know I took it." "Who knows?" Mr. Graves demanded. "What did you take, Caleb?" Instead of answering, Caleb's wild eyes locked on Maya standing in the doorway. Recognition flashed across his face. "You," he whispered, suddenly still. "You found it." Every head turned toward her. Maya backed away, heart hammering. Have you ever felt trapped by a secret you didn't understand? Caught between running away and stepping closer to danger? A nurse gently guided her back to the waiting room while the doctor administered something to calm Caleb. The boy's screams faded to whimpers, then silence. The hospital seemed to hold its breath. Maya sank into a plastic chair, fingers curling around the key in her pocket. Whatever Caleb had gotten himself into, it was serious. Dangerous, maybe. And now she was part of it. She should leave. Now. Before questions came that she couldn't answer. But the exit doors looked miles away, and exhaustion weighed on her like wet cement. Just 5 minutes of rest, she told herself. 5 minutes, then she'd disappear. The waiting room smelled like bleach and fear. A television mounted in the corner silently played late-night infomercials. Maya's eyelids grew heavy again, her head nodding forward. She didn't realize she'd fallen asleep until someone sat beside her, the plastic chair creaking under their weight. "He's sedated now," Mr. Graves said quietly. "The doctor says it's not uncommon with head trauma." Confusion. Paranoia. Maya kept her eyes down, neither confirming nor denying anything. "But I know my son," he continued, his voice low. "This wasn't just confusion. He's afraid of something real." The clock on the wall read 3:17 a.m. Outside the windows, the storm had quieted to a gentle rain, streets glistening under streetlights. "Maya," Mr. Graves said, forcing her to meet his gaze. "If you know something, anything, that might help my son, please tell me." His eyes were red-rimmed, his composed facade cracking. Here was a man who commanded boardrooms and moved markets, reduced to pleading with a homeless girl. Sometimes the most powerful people are the most desperate, aren't they? When was the last time you saw someone strong become suddenly vulnerable? Maya's hand closed around the key again. She should give it to him. Should tell him everything she'd seen. But something held her back, instinct, maybe. The same instinct that had kept her alive on the streets all these months. "I don't know anything," she lied. "I just found him after those guys ran off." Mr. Graves studied her face, searching for truth. Maya had learned to hide her feelings long ago. Her expression revealed nothing. Finally, he sighed, shoulders slumping with exhaustion. "I believe you want to help. When Caleb wakes up, really wakes up, maybe he can explain." A doctor approached, clipboard in hand. "Mr. Graves." "A word?" They stepped away, speaking in hushed tones. Maya caught fragments: observation, CT scan, next 24 hours critical. When Mr. Graves returned, his face was grim. "They want to keep him sedated until morning. Monitor the swelling in his brain." The unspoken question hung between them: what would Maya do now? "Is there someone I can call for you?" he asked finally. "Somewhere you need to be?" Maya almost laughed. "No." He nodded as if he'd expected this answer. "Well, I'm not leaving my son. And it seems wrong to send you back out there tonight." He gestured vaguely toward the windows, the city beyond. "So I guess we're both staying." A nurse approached with blankets and pillows. Apparently, Mr. Graves' wealth commanded service even at this hour. Maya accepted the bedding wordlessly, arranging it across 3 plastic chairs pushed together, a makeshift bed better than anything she'd had in months. Mr. Graves settled into a chair across from her, his long legs stretched out, eyes fixed on the door to his son's room. "Try to sleep," he said, though it was clear he wouldn't be doing the same. Maya lay down, pulling the blanket to her chin. The key pressed uncomfortably against her hip. She shifted to move it, then froze as something caught her eye. On the television in the corner, the infomercial had been replaced by a news bulletin. The sound was muted, but the headline scrolled across the bottom of the screen: "Break-in at Graves Industries lab, nothing reported stolen." Maya's gaze darted to Mr. Graves, but he wasn't watching the TV. His attention remained fixed on his son's door, unaware of the news about his own company. She closed her eyes, mind racing. Caleb. A break-in. A mysterious key. They know I took it. It couldn't be coincidence. What had she stumbled into? Sleep came in fitful bursts. Each time Maya woke, Mr. Graves was in the same position, watching, waiting, a man carved from stone. Morning arrived with harsh fluorescent certainty. A new shift of nurses bustled in. The storm had passed, leaving a washed-clean world outside the windows. A doctor Maya hadn't seen before entered Caleb's room. Minutes later, he emerged to speak with Mr. Graves. "The swelling has decreased. We're reducing the sedation. He should wake up naturally within the hour." Relief softened Mr. Graves' rigid posture. And his confusion from last night? Not uncommon with concussions. His latest scans look promising, but we'll know more when he wakes. As the doctor left, a nurse approached Maya. "Honey, we called social services. Someone's coming to help you." Ice shot through Maya's veins. Social services meant questions. Questions meant the system. The system meant going back to foster care. "I don't need help," she said, already calculating the distance to the nearest exit. The nurse's smile was sympathetic but firm. "It's procedure for unaccompanied minors. They'll be here soon." Maya looked to Mr. Graves, but he seemed lost in his own thoughts, relief about his son overshadowing everything else. She stood, gathering her still damp clothes from yesterday. "I need to use the bathroom." The nurse pointed down the hall. "Second door on the right. But come right back, okay? Social services will want to talk to you about what happened last night." Maya nodded, clutching her clothes to her chest. The key remained hidden in the scrub pants pocket. In the bathroom, she changed quickly, hands trembling. The hospital scrubs went into the trash. Her own clothes were still damp and smelled of rain, but at least they were hers. The key, small, silver, ordinary-looking, caught the fluorescent light as she examined it. No markings, no clues to what it might open. Just a standard key that had somehow terrified Caleb Graves. Maya slipped it into her jeans pocket and peered out of the bathroom. The hallway was busy with morning hospital traffic. No one was watching for her specifically. She could leave now. Should leave. Before social services arrived. Before more questions came. Before she got pulled deeper into whatever trouble the Graves family was facing. But Caleb was waking up. Might already be awake. And something told her that key was important, maybe even dangerous. Don't we all face moments when we must choose between what's safe and what's right? When our instincts pull us in opposite directions? Maya took a deep breath and made her decision. Instead of heading for the exit, she walked toward room 437. The door was partially open. Inside, Caleb lay propped against pillows, eyes open but unfocused. Mr. Graves sat beside the bed, leaning forward intently. "Caleb, do you remember what happened?" he was asking. "What were you doing in that part of town?" Caleb's gaze drifted around the room, finally settling on his father. "Dad?" Recognition dawned slowly. "Dad, where am I?" "You're in the hospital. You were attacked." Confusion clouded Caleb's face. Then his eyes widened with sudden panic. The key. Where's the key? What key, son? What are you talking about? Maya stepped into the doorway. Caleb spotted her immediately, his expression changing from panic to something like relief. You, he whispered. The girl who found me. Mr. Graves turned, surprised to see Maya still there. I thought you'd be with social services by now. They're not here yet, she said simply. Caleb tried to sit up straighter, wincing with pain. Did you find it? Please tell me you found it. Maya hesitated, aware of Mr. Graves watching her closely. The lie she told him last night hung between them. Slowly, she reached into her pocket and pulled out the silver key. Caleb exhaled with visible relief. Thank God. Caleb, Mr. Graves' voice was tight with controlled anger. What is going on? What is that key? But before Caleb could answer, a man appeared in the doorway behind Maya. Not a doctor or nurse, his suit was too expensive, his posture too rigid. Mr. Graves, he said, his voice clipped and professional. Security breach at your home. Someone broke in 20 minutes ago. Mr. Graves stood, instantly alert. Caleb's room? The security man nodded grimly. Tore it apart. They were looking for something. All eyes turned to the small silver key in Maya's outstretched hand. We need to go, Caleb whispered, fear etching every word. Now. They're coming here next. He can't be moved, the doctor protested, but Mr. Graves was already disconnecting monitors, his movements precise despite the panic in his eyes. My son stays alive first, follows medical advice second, he snapped. The security man was on his phone, voice low and urgent, requesting a car at the emergency exit. Maya stood frozen, the key still in her outstretched hand. In seconds, everything had changed. Again. Give it to me, Caleb said, reaching for the key. His fingers closed around it with desperate relief. Mr. Graves turned to Maya. I don't know what's happening, but it seems you're involved now. You have a choice to make, quickly. The intercom crackled, security to 4th floor. Unidentified individuals in east stairwell. Time slowed, then compressed. Come with us or walk away, Mr. Graves said. But decide now. Have you ever had to make a life-changing decision in seconds? When there's no time to weigh options, no space for doubt, what guides your choice? Maya thought of the social worker coming for her. Thought of going back into the system. Thought of the streets waiting outside. I'll come, she whispered, the words surprising her even as they left her mouth. Movement exploded around them. The security man ushered them toward a service elevator at the far end of the hall. Caleb leaned heavily on his father, barely able to stand but moving on pure adrenaline. The key, Maya said as they hurried along. What is it? Not here, Caleb hissed, eyes darting to every corner, every shadow. The service elevator was small, industrial. It smelled like cleaning products and old food. They descended in tense silence, Caleb's breathing ragged. When the doors opened, they faced a loading dock where deliveries arrived. A black SUV with tinted windows idled nearby, engine running. Go, the security man urged, scanning the area. I'll create a diversion. Mr. Graves helped Caleb into the back of the SUV, then held the door for Maya. She hesitated one last time, street instinct screaming that this was crazy, dangerous. But the alternative was worse. She climbed in beside Caleb. Mr. Graves took the front passenger seat. The driver, another security type with a gun visible under his jacket, pulled away before the doors were fully closed. Take us to the lake house, Mr. Graves ordered. Call ahead, make sure it's secure. The SUV accelerated smoothly, merging into morning traffic. Maya watched the hospital recede through the rear window, half expecting to see pursuers bursting through the doors. You want to tell me what's going on now? Mr. Graves demanded, turning to face his son. The composed businessman was gone, replaced by something more primal. A father protecting his child. Caleb clutched the key in his fist, knuckles white. "I found something at the lab," he said, voice still weak. "Something they're hiding." "Who is they?" "Your partners. The military contractors." Caleb's eyes flicked nervously to Maya, then back to his father. "Remember how you wouldn't let me tour the West Wing? Said it was classified?" Mr. Graves' expression darkened. "You broke into a restricted area. I used your passcode. The one you think I don't know." The way they spoke, cutting words, hurt beneath the anger, felt familiar to Maya. The language of family that stayed broken too long. "Why would you do something so stupid, Mr. Graves demanded. "Because you never tell me anything." Caleb's voice rose, then broke as pain visibly shot through his head. 3 years, Dad. 3 years of secrets. Closed doors. Whispered phone calls. Mom dies and suddenly half your company becomes off-limits. Silence fell heavy in the SUV. Maya pressed herself against the door, wishing she could disappear. This wasn't her fight, wasn't her family. But she was here now, for better or worse. The driver navigated through the city, taking a complicated route of turns and backtracking that Maya recognized as anti-surveillance tactics. She'd seen drug dealers use the same techniques. "What did you find?" Mr. Graves finally asked, his voice quiet now. Caleb glanced at Maya again, hesitating. "She's already involved," Mr. Graves said, following his son's gaze. "And she saved your life. If we can't trust her, we're already doomed." The weight of those words settled over Maya. Trust. When had anyone last trusted her? Caleb nodded slowly, then winced at the movement. "There's a hidden lab. Below the main one. They're developing something." He swallowed hard. "Something that can control people. Their minds." Mr. Graves' expression remained carefully neutral. "That's impossible. I saw it, Dad. Footage of the tests. They call it Project Whisper." Caleb's voice dropped. "And it works." The driver took a sharp turn onto a highway leading out of the city. Maya watched skyscrapers give way to suburbs, then to scattered houses, then to trees. "Let's say I believe you," Mr. Graves said carefully. "What does the key open?" "A storage locker. At Central Station. I downloaded everything I could find onto a drive, then locked it away. I was going to tell you, but then those guys jumped me." "Not random thugs," Mr. Graves concluded. "Professional." Caleb nodded. "They knew exactly who I was. What I'd taken. The implications hung in the air. If what Caleb said was true, then very powerful people were looking for them now. How far would you go to expose a terrible truth? And at what point does the price become too high to pay? Maya's stomach twisted with hunger and fear. 12 hours ago, her biggest concern had been finding dry cardboard to sleep on. Now she was fleeing shadowy operatives with a billionaire and his injured son. "We need to get that drive," Mr. Graves said. "It's evidence." "It's more than evidence," Caleb replied. "It's leverage. Insurance." Something changed in Mr. Graves' face, a father seeing his son clearly for the first time. "When did you get so cold?" Caleb finished. "Strategic. Wonder where I learned that." More painful silence. Maya stared out the window as city gave way completely to forest. They'd been driving for almost an hour. "The girl," the driver suddenly said, eyes meeting Maya's in the rearview mirror. "Social services will be looking for her. Her description is probably already circulating." Mr. Graves glanced back at Maya, seeming to truly see her again. "He's right. We need to change your appearance." "I don't understand," Maya said, finding her voice at last. "Why am I here?" Why did you bring me? Because they saw you, Caleb answered before his father could. At the hospital. They'll assume you know something. That I told you. But you didn't tell me anything. They don't know that. The weight of it settled over her. She was a loose end. A liability. I'll let you out at the next town, Mr. Graves offered, reading her expression. Give you money. Enough to get far away. The offer hung in the air. Freedom. Safety, maybe. But where would she go? Back to the streets of a different city? Back to dodging social services and sleeping under bridges? And something else nagged at her, a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in months. Since her mother died. No, she said finally. I want to help. Mr. Graves studied her with new interest. Why? Maya thought of her mother's words, people are mostly good. They just forget sometimes. Because it's the right thing to do, she said simply. Something passed between them, not trust exactly, but understanding. The SUV turned onto a narrow road winding through dense trees. Ahead, a gate appeared, heavy and electronic. It swung open as they approached. Beyond stretched a massive lake, morning sun glinting off its surface. On the shore stood a modern house of glass and stone, smaller than Maya had expected for a lake house, but still more luxurious than anywhere she'd ever been. We'll regroup here, Mr. Graves said as the SUV pulled to a stop. Clean up. Change clothes. Make a plan. Caleb needed help walking to the house, his arm draped over his father's shoulder. Maya followed behind, acutely aware of her dirty clothes, her unwashed skin. Inside, the house was all clean lines and open space. One wall was entirely glass, overlooking the peaceful lake. So different from the chaotic city they'd left behind. Jesse will show you where to clean up, Mr. Graves told Maya, nodding toward a housekeeper who had appeared silently. We keep clothes here in various sizes. Help yourself. Maya followed the housekeeper down a hallway, through a door, into a guest room bigger than any apartment she'd ever lived in. Bathrooms through there, Jesse said kindly. Towels on the rack. I'll bring some clothes. Left alone, Maya stood in the center of the room, overwhelmed. 24 hours ago, she'd been homeless, hopeless. Now she was in a billionaire's lake house, involved in some kind of conspiracy. The bathroom mirror showed a stranger, a thin black girl with haunted eyes, tangled hair, dirt smudged across one cheek. Her mother wouldn't recognize her. Hot water was a miracle she'd almost forgotten. Maya stood under the shower until her skin pruned, watching dirt and fear circle the drain. When she emerged, a stack of clean clothes waited on the bed, jeans, t-shirts, even new underwear with tags still attached. Dressed in clothes that actually fit, clean for the first time in weeks, Maya felt something dangerous bloom inside her chest. Hope. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Maya. It was Caleb's voice. Can we talk? She opened the door to find him leaning against the wall, pale but steadier. He'd showered and changed too, a fresh bandage on his temple. How's your head? She asked. Feels like someone took a baseball bat to it. He attempted a smile. Oh wait, they did. Despite everything, Maya found herself smiling back. There was something about Caleb, a warmth his father lacked. I never thanked you, he said. For staying with me. For calling my dad. Maya shrugged, uncomfortable with gratitude. Anyone would've. No. They wouldn't. His words echoed his father's from the hospital. A moment passed between them, something unspoken but understood. Come on, he said finally. Dad's waiting in the kitchen. We're making a plan. Maya followed him down the hallway. Mr. Graves stood at a large island in the center of an impressive kitchen, maps and papers spread before him. Central Station is heavily monitored, he was saying to someone on the phone. We need a distraction. He looked up as they entered, ending his call. "Good, you're here. We don't have much time." On the counter sat 3 new phones, still in packaging. "Burner phones," Mr. Graves explained. "Our regular phones are definitely being tracked." The scale of their situation hit Maya anew. These people were running from something big. And she was running with them. "I think I should tell you something," she said suddenly. Both Graves' men turned to look at her. "About last night. About what I saw." She described the 3 attackers in detail, their heights, builds, the way they moved. "They weren't street thugs," she concluded. "They moved like soldiers." Mr. Graves and Caleb exchanged looks. "One more thing," Maya added. "Before I found Caleb, I saw another man. Watching from a car. He didn't get out, didn't help. Just watched the whole thing happen." "What did he look like?" Mr. Graves demanded. "I couldn't see clearly. But he was wearing a suit. And his car was expensive. Black, like yours." The room fell silent as this information sank in. "They weren't trying to rob me," Caleb said quietly. "They were sending a message. Or trying to retrieve what you took without killing you," his father added. The 3 of them stood in that sunlit kitchen, connected by danger and a growing understanding that nothing would be the same after today. "We need that drive," Mr. Graves said finally. "But Central Station will be watched. So we don't go through the front door," Caleb suggested. "There's another way in." Caleb nodded, then looked at Maya. "That's where she comes in." Maya felt both their gazes heavy upon her. "What do you mean?" "The maintenance tunnels," Caleb explained. "They run under the station. Connecting to the subway system. And I'm supposed to know about these because homeless people use them for shelter. Especially in winter." Maya stared at him, processing his words. "You want me to guide you through homeless tunnels?" "We'd stick out down there," Mr. Graves said. "You wouldn't." The implication was clear. They needed her, not just as a witness now, but as a guide. As someone who could move through invisible spaces. "And if I do this?" Maya asked. "If we get this drive? What happens to me after?" The question hung between them. Mr. Graves opened his mouth to answer, but before he could speak, the security system blared to life. Red lights flashed throughout the house. On a tablet, security camera feeds showed 3 black SUVs approaching the gate. "They found us," Caleb whispered. "That's impossible," Mr. Graves snapped. "No one knows about this place except." He stopped mid-sentence, realization dawning on his face. "Except who, Dad?" Caleb demanded. But Maya already knew the answer. Had known it since she'd seen the man watching from the car. "Someone on the inside," she said quietly. "Someone you trust." Mr. Graves' face hardened into a mask. "Get to the boat. Now." The boat cut through the lake water like a blade, sending spray into Maya's face as she clung to the railing. Behind them, the glass house grew smaller, black SUVs now visible in its driveway. "Faster," Mr. Graves urged the caretaker piloting the sleek vessel. The engine roared louder, pushing them toward the opposite shore. Maya glanced at Caleb, huddled under a blanket despite the warm morning. His face was ashen, eyes half closed against pain and wind. "They'll have the roads watched," Mr. Graves said, checking his new burner phone. "We need a vehicle they can't track." The caretaker, a weathered man named Frank who'd barely spoken, nodded toward the far shore. "My brother's place is 2 miles inland. Got an old truck he never registered. No computers in it. Cash only." Mr. Graves nodded his approval. The kind of man who found solutions, whatever the cost. How quickly alliances form when danger comes. Yesterday these people were strangers. Now Maya's life depended on them, and theirs on her. "Who are they, Dad?" Caleb asked, voice barely audible above the engine. Who did you partner with? Something like shame crossed Mr. Graves' face. Helios Defense. Private military. The government contract was too big to pass up. For weapons. Information gathering, they called it. Mr. Graves' jaw tightened. I never asked for details. The money was good. Really good. Mind control, Caleb whispered. That's what they're developing. I saw the files. The boat slowed as they approached the opposite shore. This side of the lake was less developed. Dense trees coming almost to the water's edge, a narrow dock the only sign of human presence. Maya helped Caleb from the boat while Mr. Graves spoke quietly to Frank. Money changed hands. Instructions were given. The caretaker would return to the house, claim he knew nothing. Buy them time. They hiked through woods in tense silence, Caleb leaning heavily on his father. Maya moved ahead, instinctively finding the easiest path through underbrush. She'd spent months becoming invisible. Now invisibility was their only hope. You said I wouldn't be recognized in the tunnels, Maya said as they walked. How do you know about where homeless people stay? Caleb managed a weak smile. Community service. Soup kitchens. Before Mom got sick. Another piece of the puzzle slid into place. The boy with everything, spending time with those who had nothing. She made us volunteer, he continued. Said it was important to see how most people lived. Mr. Graves said nothing, but his expression tightened at the mention of his late wife. After 20 minutes of difficult hiking, they reached a small clearing. A dilapidated cabin sat beside an even more dilapidated garage. Frank's brother, Mr. Graves explained, knocking a specific pattern on the door. A thin, suspicious face appeared in the crack. You ain't Frank. Frank sent us. We need the truck. The man's eyes narrowed, then widened at the thick envelope Mr. Graves produced. Inside the garage sat a rusted pickup that had probably been blue once. Maya recognized the type, old enough to lack computer systems, new enough to still run. Keys are in it, the man said, counting bills with nicotine-stained fingers. Don't bring it back. Moments later, they bounced down a dirt track toward the main road, Mr. Graves driving, Caleb in the middle, Maya pressed against the passenger door. The truck smelled of cigarettes and motor oil, but its engine ran smooth. How does it feel? Maya asked suddenly, unable to contain the question any longer. What? Mr. Graves asked, eyes not leaving the road. Being on the other side. Being the one running, hiding. Being. She searched for the right word. Powerless. Have you ever wondered how the mighty experience fear? If it tastes the same in their mouths as it does in yours? A muscle in Mr. Graves' jaw twitched. I'm still far from powerless. But you're scared, Maya pressed. For the first time, maybe. I've been scared before, he said quietly. When my wife was dying. When Caleb was born. Fear isn't new. But being hunted is. Instead of answering, he checked the rearview mirror for the 100th time. We need to get to Central Station. Retrieve that drive. Then what? Maya asked. Turn it over to the police. The media? I don't know yet, Mr. Graves admitted. One problem at a time. They drove in silence for several miles, forest giving way to scattered houses, then suburbs as they approached the city outskirts. Caleb dozed against his father's shoulder, exhaustion and injury pulling him under. He needs a doctor, Maya observed. After we get the drive. What if there's permanent damage? Mr. Graves' hands tightened on the steering wheel. One problem at a time. The city skyline appeared on the horizon, familiar yet suddenly threatening. Maya felt exposed as buildings grew taller around them, traffic thickened, people filled sidewalks. So many eyes. So many cameras. "We can't just walk into Central Station," she said. "Not like this." Mr. Graves pulled into a shopping center parking lot, positioning the truck between larger vehicles. "We need disguises," he agreed. "And a plan." The department store yielded affordable anonymity: baseball caps, sunglasses, plain clothes in neutral colors. Mr. Graves paid cash, careful to keep his face turned from security cameras. In the truck again, they changed. Caleb, now awake, winced as he pulled a hoodie over his bandaged head. "The storage locker," Mr. Graves said. "Where exactly?" Caleb closed his eyes, concentrating. "East Wing. Lower level. Number 424. "And how do we access these maintenance tunnels?" This is where Maya's knowledge became crucial. "Service entrance behind the station. There's a grate that's been broken for months. Leads to the heating tunnels. You've been down there?" She nodded. "Winter gets cold." Mr. Graves studied her with new respect, or perhaps it was pity. Maya couldn't tell. They approached Central Station from the south, parking the truck 6 blocks away on a side street with minimal surveillance. "Stay close," Mr. Graves instructed as they walked, Caleb between them, head down. "Act normal but forgettable." The grand facade of Central Station loomed ahead, all classical columns and soaring arches, built in a time when train travel deserved monuments. Maya led them around the perimeter, past tourists and commuters, to a service alley behind the main building. Dumpsters lined one wall. A chain-link fence protected a maintenance entrance. And just as Maya had said, one corner of a ventilation grate was bent outward, creating a gap just large enough to squeeze through. "I'll go first," she said, slipping through with practiced ease. Caleb followed, his movements stiff with pain. Mr. Graves came last, his larger frame barely fitting through the opening. Inside, darkness swallowed them. Mr. Graves activated the flashlight on his burner phone, revealing a concrete tunnel stretching into blackness. Pipes ran overhead, carrying heat and water throughout the massive station. "This way," Maya whispered, leading them deeper. The tunnels formed a maze beneath the station, hot, confined, the air thick with dust and dampness. Their footsteps echoed despite efforts to move quietly. "People live down here?" Mr. Graves asked, ducking beneath a low-hanging pipe. "When they have nowhere else," Maya replied. "It's warm in winter. Dry when it rains." They passed evidence of these unseen residents: a makeshift bed of flattened cardboard, an arrangement of canned food, discarded clothing. "There are cameras in the main areas," Caleb warned as they approached a junction where the maintenance tunnel intersected with a wider passageway. "But not down here. They don't care about these spaces." The unspoken truth hung between them. Spaces containing people society had already forgotten didn't merit surveillance. Maya held up a hand, stopping them. Voices echoed from around the corner, the rough cadence of people who called these tunnels home. "Wait," she whispered. She moved ahead alone, turning the corner to find a small encampment, 3 men huddled around a battery-powered lantern, sharing a bottle in a paper bag. One looked up, squinting. "Maya? That you, girl?" She recognized him, old Tom, a Vietnam vet who'd been living underground for decades. "Just passing through," she said quietly. "With friends." Tom's eyes narrowed. "Ain't seen you in weeks. Thought maybe you got picked up." "Still free," she assured him. "We need to get to the East Wing. Storage area." Tom studied her for a long moment, then glanced at the shadows where Caleb and Mr. Graves waited. "Your friends got money?" he asked. Maya nodded. 50 gets you past us. Another 50 gets you Raymond's help. He works the storage area." Mr. Graves appeared beside Maya, 2 $50 bills already extended. "Raymond's help would be appreciated." Tom took the money, tucking it into a pocket full of holes. "Joey, go get Raymond." The youngest of the 3 men, still old enough to be Maya's father, shuffled away down a side tunnel. Folks been through here earlier, Tom mentioned casually. Looking for someone. Maya felt Mr. Graves stiffen beside her. What kind of folks? Not cops. Not normal security. Something else. Tom's weathered face creased with suspicion. Military boots but no uniforms. Asked if we'd seen a girl and a hurt boy. Time seemed to stop. They'd been anticipated. Expected. What did you tell them? Maya asked, heart pounding. Tom snorted. Told them we don't see nothing down here. That's how we stay alive. His eyes fixed on Mr. Graves. But they'll be back. With more men. And less patience. Mr. Graves nodded his understanding. How long ago? Hour, maybe. Tom tilted his head, evaluating them. Whatever you're doing, better do it fast. Joey returned with another man, younger, wearing a janitor's uniform, keys jangling at his belt. Raymond, Tom introduced. Work storage maintenance. Raymond looked nervously at the strangers. What do you need? Access to locker 424, Mr. Graves said. East Wing. That's restricted area. Badge access only. Mr. Graves produced another 50. We have a key. Just need to get in. Raymond's eyes flickered to the money, then back to their faces. Those men. The ones looking for you. They're still up there. Watching. How many? Caleb asked, speaking for the first time since they'd entered the tunnels. For that I saw. Maybe more. Isn't it strange how the invisible see everything? Those society ignores often notice the most. Mr. Graves considered their options, face grim in the dim light. Can you create a distraction? Raymond shook his head. Not worth losing my job. But. He hesitated, then pointed to a maintenance shaft. That ladder leads to a utility closet in the East Wing. No cameras there. It's the best I can offer. Another 50 changed hands. Raymond disappeared back the way he'd come, pocketing his small fortune. They'll be watching the storage area, Caleb said, voicing what they all knew. We need a diversion, Mr. Graves agreed. His eyes settled on Maya. No, Caleb protested, reading his father's intention. We're not using her as bait. They don't know what she looks like, Mr. Graves reasoned. Only that we're with a girl. Any girl will draw their attention. Maya understood immediately. You want me to walk through the main concourse? Let them follow me while you get the drive. Mr. Graves nodded. Just long enough for us to access the locker. Then you lose them in the crowd. The plan hung in the air between them. Dangerous. Possibly deadly. But with a certain logic. And if I get caught? Maya asked. You don't know anything important, Mr. Graves replied, pragmatic as ever. You're just a homeless girl who helped an injured boy. Nothing more. The coldness of his calculation should have angered her. Instead, Maya found herself respecting its clarity. Caleb looked between them, conflict evident on his face. There has to be another way. There isn't, Maya said quietly. And he's right. I know how to disappear. She straightened her shoulders. I'll do it. Mr. Graves checked his watch. The station will be crowded now. Rush hour. Good for cover. He looked at Maya. 10 minutes. Create your distraction, then exit the south doors. We'll meet at the truck. I know the locker, Caleb said. I should go with you. His father shook his head. You can barely stand. Tell me the combination. I'll get it. A tense silence followed as Caleb debated arguing. Finally, he whispered a series of numbers that Mr. Graves committed to memory. 10 minutes, he repeated to Maya. Not a second longer. Tom, who'd been listening silently, spoke up. Girls should have protection. He produced a small knife from his boot, offering it to Maya. She hesitated, then accepted it, tucking it into her pocket. The weight of it felt both reassuring and terrifying. This way, Tom said, leading them toward the maintenance shaft. The ladder was rusted, rungs slippery with condensation. Maya climbed first, pushing open the utility closet door at the top. The bright fluorescent light of the station momentarily blinded her. She peeked out. A maintenance corridor stretched before her, empty for now. Clear, she whispered down. One by one, they emerged, Maya, then Caleb, then Mr. Graves. Tom remained below, closing the access door behind them. East wing is through those doors, Caleb said, pointing. Storage lockers are one level down. Mr. Graves nodded. Maya, head for the main concourse. Make yourself visible, then get out fast. What about Caleb? She asked. He can't run if there's trouble. I'll manage, Caleb insisted, though his face remained pale with pain. In that moment, standing in the harsh light of the maintenance corridor, the reality of their situation hit Maya fully. These weren't her people. This wasn't her fight. She could walk away right now, disappear back into the city that had been her only home. But something held her there, something more than fear or obligation. Purpose, maybe. Or the simple human need to be needed. 10 minutes, she agreed, checking the time on her burner phone. Not a second longer. With a final nod to Caleb, whose eyes held emotions too complex to name, Maya slipped through the doors into the bustling main terminal of Central Station. The cacophony hit her immediately, announcements echoing from speakers, hundreds of conversations blending into white noise, the constant movement of bodies rushing toward destinations. Maya moved with purpose, keeping her head up but her face neutral. Just another traveler. Nothing special. Her eyes scanned the crowd, searching for the men Tom had described. Military boots. Watchful eyes. Contained menace. There, near the information desk. A man in civilian clothes but with the rigid posture of a soldier. His gaze swept methodically across the concourse. And there, by the north entrance. Another one, hand resting casually near his hip where a weapon likely waited. Maya altered her course, walking directly through the center of the concourse. Making herself visible. When the first man's eyes locked onto her, she knew she'd been spotted. He touched his ear, a communication device, and began moving in her direction. The second man responded immediately, changing position to cut off a potential escape route. Maya's heart thundered in her chest. Her 10 minutes had just begun. She veered toward the food court, weaving through tables filled with travelers. Behind her, the men followed, trying to look casual but moving with clear purpose. They hadn't yet confirmed she was their target. Just a suspicion. A girl of the right age, right build. Maya needed to make them certain. Needed to hold their attention fully. She approached a security guard, pointed in the direction of the east wing, asked a question loud enough to be overheard. The guard pointed, giving directions. Maya thanked him and walked away, directly toward the east wing. A clear signal to her pursuers. She felt rather than saw their response, a quickening of pace, a tightening of focus. Now a third man appeared, moving to flank her from the left. 3 against 1. And those were only the ones she could see. Maya fingered the knife in her pocket, praying she wouldn't need it. 6 minutes had passed. 4 remained. She ducked into a crowded gift shop, pretending to browse postcards while watching the men position themselves outside. They weren't trying to hide anymore. Their intent was clear. 5 more seconds of browsing. 10. Then Maya moved to the back of the shop, toward a service door marked "Employees Only." As she pushed through it, she heard one of the men call out, "Miss." "Excuse me, miss." She broke into a run. The service corridor was narrow, lined with storage rooms. Maya sprinted down it, hearing the door crash open behind her as her pursuers followed. "Stop right there," a voice commanded, all pretense of casualness gone. Maya turned a corner, found another maintenance access door, crashed through it into a stairwell. Up or down? Down would lead to the tunnels eventually. Up might lead to a more public area. She chose up, taking the stairs two at a time, her street-honed stamina carrying her forward. The men followed, boots heavy on the metal stairs. Drawing closer. 8 minutes had passed. 2 remained. Maya burst through a door onto a mezzanine overlooking the main concourse. Below, hundreds of travelers continued their journeys, oblivious to the chase above them. She darted left, toward a walkway connecting to the west wing. If she could reach it, circle back. A hand grabbed her arm, spinning her around. "Gotcha," said a voice, male, satisfied, dangerous. Maya stared up into the face of her captor, buzz-cut hair, cold eyes, a smile that never reached them. "Let me go," she demanded, voice steadier than she felt. "Can't do that," he replied. "Need to ask you some questions about your new friends." His grip tightened painfully on her arm. Behind him, the other 2 men approached, boxing her in. Maya's hand closed around the knife in her pocket. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said. The man's smile widened. "Sure you do. The boy with the head injury. The man in the expensive suit. Ring any bells?" 10 minutes had passed. Time was up. Maya had to make a choice. With her free hand, she pulled out the knife, its blade catching the overhead light. The man's eyes widened slightly. Now. Let's not do anything stupid." But Maya wasn't looking at him anymore. She was looking past him, over the railing, to the concourse below. Where Elliot Graves stood in full view, a storage locker key in one hand, a small drive in the other. And beside him, impossibly, stood Caleb, no longer hunched in pain but standing tall, alert. Both staring directly at her. Both smiling. And neither one looking anything like a man and his injured son running for their lives. The next morning, Maya was gone. Sunlight streamed through the open window of the guest room, catching dust motes that danced in the empty space. On the perfectly made bed, not a wrinkle in sight, lay a folded piece of paper. The housekeeper found it first during her morning rounds. Her soft gasp brought Elliot from his study, coffee mug still in hand. "Sir," she said, handing him the note with trembling fingers. "The girl." Elliot scanned the carefully printed words. "Thank you for showing me what care feels like. But people like me don't belong in stories like yours." The mug slipped from his fingers, shattering on the hardwood floor. Coffee spread like dark blood around the fragments. "When?" he demanded, his voice unnaturally tight. "I don't know, sir." Her bed wasn't slept in. The window was open when I came in. Elliot moved to the window, gripping the sill with white-knuckled hands. 3 stories up, a dangerous climb down, but possible with determination. With desperation. "Wake Caleb," he ordered. "Call security." What makes someone run from safety back into danger? What invisible walls do we build that make others feel they don't belong? Within an hour, the mansion hummed with controlled panic. Security guards reviewed camera footage, finding the blind spot Maya had somehow known to use. Caleb, still in pajamas, paced the kitchen, phone pressed to his ear as he called hospitals and shelters. "Nothing," he reported to his father. "No one's seen her." Elliot's face remained a mask of control, but something flickered behind his eyes, something that might have been guilt. Or perhaps fear. "The police," Caleb suggested. "Not yet," Elliot decided. "She's not officially our responsibility. Questions would be complicated. She's a 13-year-old girl alone on the streets. And she survived there before meeting us," Elliot countered. She's resourceful. The unspoken truth hung between them. Maya had chosen to leave. Had rejected the comfort and security they offered in favor of freedom. Of distance from whatever she'd found intolerable here. Caleb's jaw tightened. I'm going to look for her. Where? This city has 8 million people. I'll start where we found her. The basketball court. The underpass nearby. Elliot nodded, surprising his son with immediate agreement. Take Jackson with you, he said, referring to the head of security. I'll coordinate from here. As Caleb rushed to dress, Elliot returned to Maya's empty room. He stood in the center, turning slowly, taking in the few signs of her brief presence, a borrowed book on the nightstand, a glass of water half empty, the window still open to the morning breeze. What had they done, or not done, to make her feel she didn't belong in their world? The answer came with a sharp knock at the front door. Elliot descended the grand staircase to find a woman in a practical suit standing in his foyer, a folder clutched to her chest, credentials already extended. Mr. Graves. I'm Patricia Warren from Social Services. This isn't a good time, Elliot replied automatically. I'm afraid it's urgent. Her expression was professional but determined. It concerns Maya Jackson. The name landed like a physical blow. You know Maya? I've been looking for her for some time, the woman confirmed. May we speak privately? In his study, Elliot offered neither coffee nor pleasantries. How do you know Maya? MS. Warren opened her folder, extracting a photograph. Maya was in foster care before she ran away 4 months ago. We've been searching for her since. I wasn't aware, Elliot said carefully, studying the photo. Maya, younger, less guarded, standing beside a smiling woman with the same dark eyes. Her mother was Lydia Jackson, Ms. Warren continued, watching Elliot's face closely. Does that name mean anything to you? Should it? Instead of answering, she extracted another document. Lydia Jackson worked for your company from 2018 until 2021. Pharmaceutical Research Division. She was let go during the Henderson facility closure. Elliot's expression remained carefully neutral, but his mind raced. A connection he hadn't known existed. A coincidence too precise to be chance. After losing her job and health insurance, Ms. Warren continued, her voice taking on an edge, Lydia couldn't afford her heart medication. She died 3 months later, leaving Maya alone. The system placed her in foster care, but she ran. Been on the street since. Each word landed like an accusation. Each fact built a case Elliot couldn't refute. The Henderson closure was a business decision, he said finally. 400 employees. I never reviewed individual files. 400 lives, Ms. Warren corrected. Including Lydia's. And by extension, Maya's. The weight of it settled over Elliot, not just abstract numbers on a spreadsheet, but real people. Real consequences. A chain reaction he'd set in motion with the stroke of a pen. Why are you telling me this? He asked, though he already suspected the answer. Because Maya was spotted entering your property 2 days ago. Because I need to know what connection exists between you and a homeless child whose mother died after your company terminated her. The accusation was clear, though delicately phrased. What was a billionaire doing with a vulnerable girl? What were his intentions? She helped my son, Elliot explained, the partial truth easier than the complete one. He was injured. She called for help. I brought her here as a thank you. Ms. Warren's expression remained skeptical. And now she's gone again. This morning, Elliot confirmed. Left a note. My son is out looking for her now. Mr. Graves, whatever your intentions, Maya is a ward of the state. A vulnerable minor. If you know where she might have gone. I don't, he interrupted. But I intend to find her. Something in his tone must have convinced her, because Ms. Warren's expression softened slightly. Why? Why does this particular child matter to you? The question struck deeper than intended. Why did Maya matter? Beyond the connection to his company, beyond her help with Caleb. What had drawn him to bring a homeless girl into his carefully ordered world? Because, Elliot said slowly, the truth emerging as he spoke it, she showed my son kindness when she had every reason not to. Because she stayed with him when it offered no benefit to her. He paused. Because she has courage I haven't seen in boardrooms full of powerful men. Ms. Warren studied him, weighing sincerity against suspicion. Finally, she closed her folder. When you find her, if you find her, call me immediately. She placed her card on his desk. She belongs in proper care. And if that care failed her before? Elliot challenged. If that's why she ran. The system is imperfect, she acknowledged. But it's what we have. After she left, Elliot sat alone in his study, the morning light casting long shadows across the floor. The card on his desk. The revelation about Maya's mother weighing on him like physical mass. His company, his decision, had set in motion the events that destroyed her family. And by some cosmic coincidence or karmic justice, she had entered his life anyway. His phone rang, Caleb's name flashing on the screen. Nothing at the basketball court, his son reported. No one's seen her at any of the shelters. Keep looking, Elliot ordered. I'm sending more security to help. And Caleb, there's something you should know about Maya. As he explained the connection, Maya's mother, the Henderson closure, the terrible symmetry of it all, silence grew on the other end of the line. You're telling me, Caleb finally said, voice tight with disbelief, that the girl who saved me is the daughter of a woman our company destroyed? Put so baldly, the truth was unbearable. It was a business decision. Not personal. It was personal to them. Caleb's anger cracked through the phone. To Maya's mother. To Maya. The accusation from his own son struck harder than the social worker's professional suspicion. Because Caleb was right. Because in reducing people to numbers, Elliot had forgotten the human cost of his decisions. Find her, he said simply. We'll make this right. Hours passed. The search expanded. Security teams canvassed homeless encampments. Caleb visited every shelter, every soup kitchen, showing Maya's picture with increasing desperation. Night fell, bringing with it a gentle rain that washed the city clean. Elliot stood at his office window, watching droplets trace patterns on the glass, feeling a weight he couldn't name pressing against his chest. His phone rang again, not Caleb this time, but Jackson, head of security. Sir, we found something. Under the bridge near Franklin Park. Some homeless people recognized her picture. Said she comes there sometimes. Hope flared, bright and painful. I'm coming. Send me the location. The bridge loomed dark against the night sky, rain giving the concrete a slick, otherworldly sheen. Elliot parked his car himself, dismissing his driver with a gesture. Some tasks a man needed to perform alone. Security waited at a discreet distance as Elliot approached the underpass, his expensive shoes sinking into mud, his tailored suit offering little protection against the chill. And there, huddled against the concrete support, a small figure sat alone in the darkness. Maya didn't look up as he approached, though she must have heard his footsteps. In her hands, she clutched a piece of paper, not her note from this morning, but something she'd been working on. A drawing. Maya, Elliot said softly. She raised her head slowly. No surprise in her expression. As if she'd been expecting him. Waiting, perhaps. How did you find me? She asked. I looked, he replied simply. The rain fell harder, drumming against the bridge above them, but neither moved to seek better shelter. The social worker came, Elliot said after a moment. She told me about your mother. Maya's fingers tightened on the paper in her hands. I know. You know. About my mother working for your company. About the layoffs. Her voice was steady, without accusation. My grandmother told me before she died. Said you weren't a bad man. Just a busy one. The absolution felt unearned, undeserved. I didn't know, Elliot said, the words insufficient against the magnitude of what had happened. I did, Maya replied simply. That's why I left. I wanted to see if she was right about you. Understanding dawned slowly. Maya hadn't run from them. She had tested them. Had needed to know if they would search for her. If they would care enough to find her. Elliot knelt in the mud beside her, heedless of his ruined suit. Was she right? Your grandmother. Maya looked at him directly, her young face serious in the dim light. I think you're trying to be. The simple assessment. Not condemnation, not forgiveness, but acknowledgement of effort, struck Elliot with unexpected force. Then let me keep trying, he said, his voice rough with emotion he rarely permitted himself. With you. Maya hesitated, then held out the paper she'd been clutching. A drawing, simple but clear, 3 stick figures standing together under a bright sun. Labeled in childish print, Caleb. Mr. Graves. Maya. It's us, she said quietly. Elliot took the drawing with careful hands, as if receiving something precious and fragile. Yes, he agreed, blinking against unexpected moisture in his eyes. It's us. He extended his hand, an echo of their first meeting in the rain. This time, when Maya took it, something shifted between them, not forgiveness exactly, but possibility. A future neither had imagined becoming suddenly, tentatively real. As they walked back toward the waiting car, toward the life they might build together, neither noticed the figure watching from the shadows across the street. A man in a dark coat, face hidden, observing their reunion with cold, calculating interest. The past didn't always stay buried. Sometimes it watched, and waited, and planned. And somewhere beyond the rain-washed streets, beyond the bridge and the mansion and the tenuous new connections forming between strangers, the next chapter of their story was already being written. The drive back to the mansion felt like crossing between worlds. Rain tapped gently against the car windows, creating a cocoon of sound around them. Maya sat with her drawing on her lap, fingers tracing the simple figures as if to reassure herself they were real. Elliot had called Caleb from the car. I found her. She's safe. We're coming home. Home. The word hung in the air between them, its meaning shifting, expanding. Ms. Warren from Social Services came today, Elliot said, breaking the silence. She's been looking for you. Maya tensed. Are you going to send me back? No, he answered without hesitation. But we'll need to address your legal status. Do things properly. The car rounded a corner, moving from dimly lit streets to the glowing affluence of Elliot's neighborhood. Maya watched the houses grow larger, more isolated behind gates and hedges. Why? She asked suddenly. Why would you want me to stay after what my mother? After what I did to your mother, Elliot corrected gently. Let's be accurate about where responsibility lies. Have you ever noticed how the hardest truths are often the simplest? How powerful it can be when someone finally acknowledges what's been left unspoken. Maya studied his profile, the strong jaw, the tired eyes, the slight gray at his temples. A man who moved markets with decisions, who held power most people couldn't imagine. A man who had accidentally destroyed her world with a signature, and was now trying to rebuild it. My mom talked about you sometimes, Maya said. Not you specifically. The company. She loved her work there. Elliot's hands tightened on the steering wheel. What did she do? Research. Something with medicines. Maya's voice softened with remembered pride. She said she was helping make things that would save lives someday. The irony twisted like a knife. A woman dedicated to saving lives, whose own life had been deemed expendable in a corporate calculation. The Henderson facility closure was a numbers decision, Elliot said, his voice tight. Projected against quarterly earnings. Cost-benefit analysis. The corporate language felt hollow now, obscene even. I never saw the individual files. Never considered the human cost. Would it have mattered if you had? Maya's question held no accusation, only genuine curiosity. Elliot was silent for a long moment. I'd like to think so, he finally answered. But I don't know. The man I was then, he thought differently than I do now. The honesty of his admission hung between them, not an excuse, but an acknowledgement. The beginning of something that might, someday, resemble redemption. My grandmother said people make mistakes, Maya offered. Even big ones. What matters is what they do after. Your grandmother sounds wise. She was. Maya looked down at her drawing again. She died last year. Before Mom. She's the one who raised me when Mom was working. Pieces of Maya's life assembled themselves in Elliot's mind. Not a faceless statistic or convenient rescue story, but a real child with a history. With losses. With courage that humbled him. The car passed through the gates of Graves Manor, gravel crunching beneath the tires. Through the rain-streaked windows, Elliot could see Caleb waiting under the portico, tension visible in every line of his body. When the car stopped, he rushed forward, yanking the door open before the driver could reach it. Maya. Relief cracked through Caleb's voice. You scared the hell out of us. She looked up at him, surprise evident on her face. You were worried? Of course I was worried. I've been searching everywhere. The genuine emotion in his voice seemed to catch Maya off guard. She glanced at Elliot, then back at Caleb, as if trying to reconcile their concern with her expectations. Inside the mansion, warmth enveloped them, physical comfort that stood in stark contrast to the cold concrete bridge where Maya had been sitting just an hour before. The housekeeper appeared with towels and hot chocolate, fussing over Maya's wet clothes and chilled hands. I'll find something dry for you to wear, she offered, but Maya shook her head. I have clothes upstairs, she said quietly. In my room. My room. Another small claim, another tentative step toward belonging. As Maya went to change, Caleb turned to his father. What happens now? With social services? With everything? Elliot's gaze remained fixed on the staircase where Maya had disappeared. I'll speak with my lawyers tomorrow. Find a way to make this legal. Guardian status, perhaps. And if they say no? I've never accepted no as an answer in business, Elliot replied with quiet determination. I won't start now. When Maya returned downstairs in dry clothes, she found them waiting in the kitchen. Not the formal dining room where they usually ate, but the warm, lived-in space where staff prepared meals. A place of work and sustenance. The housekeeper had laid out simple comfort food, grilled cheese sandwiches, tomato soup, apple slices. Food that required no pretense, that spoke of care rather than impression. I wasn't sure if you'd be hungry, Elliot said, gesturing to the spread. Maya nodded, sliding onto a stool at the counter. The three of them ate in a silence that gradually shifted from awkward to companionable, broken only by the sound of rain against the windows. I've been thinking, Elliot said finally, setting down his spoon. The Henderson facility closure. The research your mother was doing. Maya looked up, wariness returning to her eyes. I want to reopen the project, he continued. Fund it properly this time. Complete what your mother started. Why? The question came from Caleb, who was watching his father with new interest. Because it mattered, Elliot replied. Because some things are worth more than quarterly profits. He paused. And because I owe a debt I can never fully repay. Maya's spoon clattered against her bowl. You do that? For her. For her, Elliot confirmed. And for the lives her work might save. Something shifted in Maya's expression, not quite trust, not yet forgiveness, but recognition. Here was action, not just words. Here was the beginning of change. I'd like that, she said softly. She'd like that. Later, as night deepened around the mansion, Maya stood at the window of her room, truly her room now, not just a temporary space. Below, the garden glistened with rain, the lights of the house casting gold reflections on wet leaves. A knock at the door broke her reverie. Caleb entered, carrying a large book. "Found this in the library," he said, handing it to her. "Thought you might like it." The book was an illustrated atlas of the stars, constellations, galaxies, distant worlds captured in vivid photography. "How did you know I like stars?" Maya asked, running her fingers over the cover. "Your backpack," Caleb explained. "When we first met. It had glow-in-the-dark stars stuck on it." He shrugged, suddenly self-conscious. "Just seemed like something you cared about." The observation, that he had noticed, had remembered something so small about her, touched Maya unexpectedly. "Thanks," she said, holding the book to her chest. "My mom used to point out constellations. Said no matter where I was, the stars would be the same ones she was seeing." Caleb nodded, understanding the comfort in that connection. "My mom loved the garden," he offered. "After she died, I couldn't go out there for months. Now it's where I feel closest to her." The shared confidence, vulnerable, honest, bridged something between them. Two children who had lost mothers. Who were finding their way through grief. "Good night, Maya," Caleb said, turning to leave. "Good night." Alone again, Maya opened the atlas, losing herself in images of distant suns and swirling galaxies. In the vastness of space, her own troubles seemed smaller, more manageable. In the patterns of stars, she found a kind of order that comforted her. Days passed, then weeks. The rhythm of life at Graves Manor gradually shifted to include Maya, her preferences at meals, her schedule, her presence in rooms that had stood empty or formal for too long. Elliot's lawyers worked their magic. Papers were filed, hearings scheduled, strings pulled. Maya's status remained in legal limbo, but with each passing day, her place in the household solidified. The mansion felt alive again. Caleb laughed more. Elliot worked less. Maya began to let down her guard, to believe that perhaps this strange new life might last. But some evenings, when the house grew quiet, she would find herself drawn back to the window, staring out at the darkened street beyond the gates. Searching for something. A shadow from her past. A threat to her future. And one night, as a full moon cast silver light across the perfectly manicured lawn, Maya saw him. A man standing perfectly still across the street, watching the house. Watching her. His face was hidden in shadow, but his stillness, his focus, sent a chill through her that had nothing to do with the night air. "Elliot," she called, her voice soft but urgent. "I think someone's out there." He came immediately, joining her at the window, peering into the darkness where she pointed. But the street was empty. "I saw someone," Maya insisted. "Just standing there. Watching." Elliot studied her face, then looked back to the empty street. "I believe you," he said finally. "I'll increase security tomorrow." As he left, Maya remained at the window, her reflection ghostly against the glass. The man had been real. She was certain of it. A shiver ran through her, raising goosebumps along her arms. Because sometimes the past doesn't knock. It just waits. And somewhere beyond the lights of Graves Manor, the next story had already begun. Weeks passed. The mansion felt alive again. Fall turned to winter, then slowly gave way to spring. Time measured not in board meetings or quarterly reports, but in small, meaningful changes that transformed three separate lives into something resembling family. Maya started school, not the elite private academy Elliot had first suggested, but a public school with diverse students where she wouldn't feel so obviously different. Each morning, she boarded the bus in her carefully chosen but not too expensive clothes, a backpack filled with books she devoured like someone who'd been starving. Got an A on my science project, she announced one evening, sliding the paper across the dinner table with casual pride that couldn't quite hide her deeper satisfaction. Of course you did, Caleb said, examining her work on constellations. You're a genius. Elliot said nothing, but the slight softening around his eyes spoke volumes. He'd come to recognize Maya's brilliance, not just in academics, but in resilience, in emotional intelligence that far surpassed her 13 years. Caleb changed too. The sullen teenager who'd wandered dangerous streets searching for meaning now laughed easily, openly. His grades improved. He started volunteering again at the shelter where he and his mother had once worked. It helps, he explained when Maya asked why. Connecting to who I was before. Who she wanted me to be. And Elliot, perhaps, changed most of all. He learned to listen, really listen, when others spoke. To ask questions that weren't aimed at business advantage. To recognize the human impact of decisions made in boardrooms far removed from the lives they affected. Have you ever watched someone powerful discover that true strength lies in vulnerability? In admitting that they have something to learn from those they once would have overlooked? The Henderson Project reopened with doubled funding. Lydia Jackson's research into affordable heart medications became a priority, her name prominently featured in company literature. Not just restitution, but recognition. The legal battles for Maya's guardianship proceeded slowly, complicated by bureaucracy and the unusual circumstances. Ms. Warren from Social Services visited monthly, her clipboard and professional skepticism gradually giving way to cautious approval as she witnessed the healing taking place in the Graves household. It's unorthodox, she admitted during one visit, watching through the window as Maya and Caleb played chess on the garden patio. But I can't deny she's thriving here. She makes us better, Elliot replied simply. The media eventually caught wind of the story. Billionaire adopts homeless girl made headlines, first with cynicism, charity or PR stunt. Then with reluctant warmth as the genuineness of their connection became apparent. They're calling it a modern fairy tale, Caleb reported, scrolling through news sites on his tablet. From street to mansion. Cinderella 2.0. Maya rolled her eyes. They don't know anything about it. But she saved the articles anyway, printed them out, kept them in a folder beside her bed. Physical evidence that this new reality was actually happening. That it might last. Spring bloomed into early summer. The garden exploded with the colors Diana Graves had planted years before, roses and hydrangeas and climbing jasmine that scented the evening air. Maya often sat among them, reading or simply watching butterflies dance between blossoms. Mom would have liked you, Caleb told her one afternoon as they weeded together. She always said I needed a sister to keep me in line. Maya looked up, surprised by the casual designation. Sister. Family. Belonging. I think she sent you, he continued, hands busy with the soil. Somehow. To help us remember what matters. The sentiment might have seemed saccharine from someone else. From Caleb, with his newfound sincerity, it felt genuine. Maya didn't reject it. Evenings settled into comfortable routine. Dinner together, Elliot now home by 6 most nights instead of working until midnight. Homework at the kitchen table rather than in isolated rooms. Games or movies or quiet reading in the same space, separate activities but shared presence. We're becoming normal, Caleb observed with mock horror. Next thing you know, we'll be wearing matching sweaters for Christmas cards. Maya threw a pillow at him. Never happening. Elliot, watching from his armchair, allowed himself a small smile. Not the practiced expression he wore for business associates, but something real. Something healing. The legal papers came through on a Tuesday. Nothing so dramatic as a courtroom pronouncement or teary ceremony, just a folder delivered by courier, containing documents that officially recognized what had already formed through months of small moments and shared meals and gradual trust. Guardianship. Legal protection. Family, certified by law if not by blood. They celebrated with ice cream, not champagne. Maya's choice. 3 people sitting at the kitchen counter with rapidly melting scoops, marking a milestone that felt both monumental and natural. Does this mean I have to call you Dad now? Maya asked Elliot, the question half joking but with an undercurrent of genuine uncertainty. You can call me whatever feels right, he answered. Names matter less than what they represent. The evening stretched long and golden, none of them quite ready for it to end. As darkness fell, they moved to the back patio, watching fireflies begin their summer dance over the lawn. I never thought I'd be here, Maya admitted softly. After Mom died, I thought, that was it. No more family. Ever. And now? Elliot asked. She considered, searching for words adequate to the journey from that rainy street to this peaceful garden. Now I think maybe family isn't just what you're born into. Maybe it's also what you build. What you choose. Caleb nodded. What you fight for. A comfortable silence settled between them, broken only by the gentle chorus of crickets and distant traffic. The night was warm, the stars emerging one by one above them. Maya was the first to notice. A movement at the edge of the property, where manicured lawn gave way to carefully tended trees. A shadow that didn't belong. She tensed, the peace of the evening suddenly fragile. What is it? Caleb asked, following her gaze. Someone's out there, she whispered. By the trees. Elliot straightened, instantly alert. Where? Maya pointed. A figure stood partially hidden, a man, watching the house. Watching them. His face obscured by shadows, but his stillness, his focus, unmistakable. Elliot, she said, voice low with urgency. I think someone's out there. He moved quickly, protectively, stepping in front of Maya and Caleb as he peered into the darkness. I don't see. There, Maya insisted. By the big oak. But as Elliot squinted into the gathering darkness, the figure seemed to melt away. One moment present, the next gone, as if he'd never been there at all. I'll call security, Elliot said, reaching for his phone. I saw him, Maya insisted, a chill running through her despite the warm night. The same man from before. He was watching us. Caleb put a reassuring arm around her shoulders. Maybe it was just a neighbor. Or security doing rounds. But his voice held doubt, and Elliot's expression remained concerned as he spoke quietly into his phone, ordering a perimeter check. The security team found nothing. No footprints in the soft earth by the trees. No disturbance to the sophisticated alarm system that surrounded the property. Could have been a shadow, the head of security suggested. Tree branches in the wind. Maya knew better. The figure had been real. Had been watching with purpose, with focus that felt personal. But she nodded, accepting their explanation, not wanting to seem paranoid in her new home. Later, as she prepared for bed, a soft knock came at her door. Elliot entered, his face serious but gentle. I believe you, he said without preamble. About what you saw. Relief washed through her. You do. I'm doubling security starting tomorrow. Adding cameras to cover that section of the property. He hesitated. Maya, is there anyone from your past who might have reason to watch you? To follow you? The question sparked fear, not for herself but for this fragile new family she'd found. For what might be threatened by her unknown past. I don't think so, she answered truthfully. I kept to myself on the streets. Elliot nodded, clearly unsatisfied but unwilling to push further. Try not to worry. You're safe here. But as he left, Maya moved to her window, staring out at the darkened property below. The gardens and lawn now seemed less welcoming, the shadows between trees less peaceful. A shiver ran through the glass, through her. Because sometimes the past doesn't knock. It just waits. And somewhere beyond the lights, beyond the security and comfort of Graves' manor, the next story had already begun.